Well, first to my good afternoon. The start of a new week here on Mannin Line, and it's Beth sitting in for Andy just until Wednesday. He will be back, I promise. But if you'd like to get in touch this lunchtime, we'd love to talk to you. 66 13 68. An open mind on what is apparently the most depressing day of the year. So any tips about how to deal with that would be very welcome. What about minimum wage? We've been hearing about that on Manx Radio today. If Tynwald agrees, it could be raised to match the living wage. So I guess good news for employees, but what if you're a business owner? How will that impact you? And positive thoughts as well about the pedestrianisation of North Quay from one of the pubs in the area. Perhaps you've got some thoughts on that, or maybe you're still working out how the proposed doctors' strike scheduled to take place later this week is going to affect you. We know that if any cancellations are going to be made to your appointments, that will be done by 3 p.m. tomorrow. As I say, 66 13 68 is the number to call us this afternoon. You can text 166 177, email studio@manxradio.com. If you find us on WhatsApp 07624 166 177, then you can get in touch free of charge. Now, we've had a message in from Pammy, and Pammy says, I'm not one for complaining, and I am a firm believer in adults doing what they like in their own environment. But, and Pammy isn't going to name names, she's seen some photographs on a train which shows that the compartment has been used for things which are extremely shocking to see. Many pictures in circulation, says Pammy, of what's been taking place. Pammy's really angry about this and thinks we should ask the railways to comment, which we will do. And she also wants those who were involved in this to be spoken with and tell them this is not how a civilised society acts, and public transport is not a place for having it off. Those were Pammy's words. Let's go to the lines, though, now and join Stephen. Good afternoon, Stephen.
Good afternoon, Beth, and good afternoon, listeners. If I could return to a similar topic that we've been discussing for a number of months now, which is the Westmoreland Road development in Douglas. Firstly, of the nurses' home being refurbished, which I think everybody thought that was a good idea. And in the original presentation, I think it was included to use the car park at the left-hand side of the building looking at it. We all thought that would be used for those users of the health centres in the daytime and the residents at night. And, of course, now we've got the extra development. That's not been a success. So firstly, I'd like to talk about Mr. Wannenberg's ideas to solve the problem, but in my opinion, sadly, they will not. His first part of his motion is to introduce a statutory requirement for occupants and users of any new property developments located in the parking disk zone H in Douglas to be excluded from being able to have a residence parking permit. Now, I think that is too wide sweeping. It does not address the original problem, and it's perplexing to me, at least in as much as I was always under the impression that this first phase was going to be for essential workers who needed accommodation pretty damn quick in order to be able to get here and get to work, such as nurses, doctors, those in education. And secondly, if they do support this motion, then it would mean that any development, not necessarily just this development, would be excluded from receiving a residence parking permit. So I don't see this as the solution. The solution would have been for Mr. Collister, who's the political man on planning, to not have supported the application because it didn't comply with the strategic plan on 2 counts. The strategic plan allowed for 37 developments in this area, and it didn't comply with how many parking permits a development should have in the strategic plan. So he hasn't supported Tynwald's policy of the strategic plan, point one. And secondly, he agreed with everything that we said, or the objector said, and then voted to support it. So I find that very peculiar. And as I say, the first part of Mr. Wannenberg's motion will, in my view, create more problems than it's set up. Why on earth would you be an essential worker and then be told, if you have a car, then you're going to risk having substantial fines in a week? The second part of his motion is, too, that the current timing of residents-only parking in parking disc zone H should be extended to be at all times. Now, I think that will also all it'll do is shift the problem over. It'll mean that those sole traders who have vans and sometimes cannot get parking permits for their vehicles will be subject to the possibility of heavy penalties in the evening time for parking, because then they're subject to parking penalties being given. So all that will do is move the problem to somebody else, and I can't see those people who are sole traders and may just want to park in the evening, those people that go to the bowls and the tennis and the snooker, having to run out all the time to change their discs. In any event, you're not allowed to change your disc, you have to move your vehicle. So this, in my view, is not solutions for the problem. The solution would have been to abide by the strategic plan, in my opinion, and I hope that this is rejected tomorrow. I know some people will be surprised at me saying that, but I do feel that we haven't got the solution at the moment. My view is the solution would be not to have this over-intensive development and abide by the strategic plan.
OK, Stephen, can I just remind me, do you live in that area?
I do live in the area, so you may be surprised that I'm not supporting this plan.
And have you communicated that to your MHKs?
Yes, my MHK knows perfectly well my views on the matter. I do think that the strategic plan, as approved by Tynwald, should be complied with.
And what is your real fear if Tynwald doesn't really hear what you're saying?
Well, I fear that it won't necessarily affect me, because I am entitled to a residence parking permit, but it will certainly affect, I'm sure, a great number of sole traders who need somewhere to park their vehicles in the evening time, and others who will not be able to park. And what this will really try to do is create a residents-only parking area. And the area hill zone is a multi-use mixed area. It's not residential only; it's multi-use, and all this will do is create more problems that it solves.
OK, Stephen, really appreciate you taking the time to call in. You mentioned this being in Tynwald this week. It will be something that we report on, and I guess it's a case of wait and see now.
It certainly is, and as I say, however well-intentioned this idea is, it's not a solution. It's just merely moving the problem and creating more problems, as I say, for other people who will reside in the area but not entitled to parking permits. It's not the solution.
All right, Stephen, thank you so much. Good to talk to you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. That was Stephen talking about the parking area around Westmoreland Road. As I say, we will be hearing more about that once it's discussed in Tynwald this month. That Tynwald sitting gets underway tomorrow. Let's join Robert on line 2 now. Good afternoon, Robert.
Hi, Beth. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, we're getting there. So I was just wondering about the gig economy and people coming together to maybe do smaller jobs. In terms of like they used to have Bobber Job and things like that, and at the moment it's you can only earn up to £30. But there are loads of people either on incapacity or something like that, or not incapacity, but job seekers at the moment that are looking for painting fences and clearing pathways, and maybe when it snows, get the snow off the road and things like that. And I just think it should be up to £50 because it needs to come under review, because it's not being seen as it's not changed since the 90s, and it was always £30 that you had to declare. Or anything over £30 you had to declare it. So I think it should go up to £50. I think there should be a gig economy. I think there should be more people coming together to do smaller jobs.
So, yeah, the gig economy, the idea people do these flexible, short-term working, providing services for organisations such as a company, for example. Is it something that you'd be interested in yourself, Robert?
I'd love to do it. I know there's loads of people walking around that could, enable smaller jobs. I think any developers out there, I think crowdfund.app is available. So, I mean, get on with it. Let's see what we can do with the gig economy and get things going forward so that we can have people joining up. And you could join it on get your location on the app, be Apple or Android or whatever it is, and see people joining up and doing small jobs. They have it in New Zealand. They do it in New Zealand on one of the apps down there, but it's very small amount of people do it, but they do allow for that. And obviously, if you attach Bitcoin to the back end of it or something like that, then people would engage with it. So,
all right, Robert.
I don't see a problem with that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Lovely to talk to you again.
All right, bye.
Take care. That was Robert talking about the gig economy there. Any thoughts on that? Staying on the lines, it's Julian on line 3. Good afternoon, Julian.
Hiya, Beth. How's it going?
Good, thank you. How are you?
All right, yeah. Just before I speak about Orsted, I noticed a news article which I've not heard on Manx Radio or any of the local, or pretty much anywhere in the UK either. Moss Landing is a battery storage facility. It's the largest in the world in Monterey County, California. That has suffered a catastrophic fire, which is possibly the largest battery fire ever, the cause of which is still being determined, resulted in 2,000 residents evacuated to avoid 40-foot flames and toxic smoke, which burned for 48 hours, along with the closure of Highway 1, which is a major highway. 80% of the Vistra facility has been destroyed, and all of their lithium-ion batteries, which still continue to smoulder even after this time. And it's the fourth fire at that facility in 5 years. So when it comes to battery storage, and that's not the only one this year. 7 months ago, the Otay Mesa battery storage facility fire in San Diego, which burned for 2 weeks before they could get that one under control. And a lot of people are questioning if battery storage facilities, especially located anywhere near residential areas, are a good idea.
Well, yeah, Julian, hundreds of people, as you say, ordered to evacuate, and part of Highway 1 in Northern California was closed. It was early on Friday, I think, after that fire at one of the world's largest battery storage plants. And I guess, this is something that people are aware of, and certainly emergency services know that things like this have to be dealt with differently. But yeah, it's quite stark, that one.
Yeah. Other point, in 2 months' time, this is Wednesday, the 2nd of April, 9:15 in the morning at the launch pad, which is in Hillary House on Prospect Hill in Douglas, there's going to be a progress report and update on the Mannin offshore wind farm off Mackald. Now, I'd imagine there's plenty of people interested to know what's happening with this proposed 62,000-acre offshore wind farm, which is about half the size of the Isle of Man, which will be just 6 miles from Ramsey or Mackald. And it will be interesting to know how much the seabed lease will be and what price, if any, electricity is supplied to us direct from Mannin. But I've got 2 questions. Why is the ticket price to attend this update on the progress of Mannin £24 a person? And why is it at 9:15 in the morning on a Wednesday work day? I would have thought such an important project like this should be free and at a venue, outside of the working week where a lot more people can attend and see what's happening with it.
I guess that's a question that you need to direct in their way, I guess, Julian. But it might be, I don't know, it's a commercial operation. They need to make the money from this event. I don't know.
Yeah, no, but it's something that's, it's really going to affect the people of the island. I mean, even if you're up at, say, the Black Hut looking out over the north, I mean, if you've got these, and these are going to be new generation turbines, I think it's 2028, the chief technical officer at Orsted told me, 1,300 feet high, these things, and there's going to be probably at least 100. So, goodbye to the view to the lakes and parts of Scotland and stuff, it's going to be 62,000 acres of wind turbines 6 miles away from the island is going to be very noticeable, I would say.
I think the only thing I would say about Morvan is they have held some public consultations. So whether this is just an event for a different group of people, I don't know, Julian. But interesting. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Beth.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. That was Julian there, just talking about Orsted. And let's go to some of the emails that we've got in. Julian keeps finding reasons for us to question green energy, turbines, batteries, etc., but must realise the government doesn't care, says G. There's another text there from 011, just talking again about regular callers, but also says, looks like those people on the train got their love life back on track. Yeah, I probably should have pre-read Pammy's email in full, shouldn't I, before I read that one out. But yes, we'll see if there is any comment on that. Probably won't share the photographs, though. Does Julian just read things off the internet, or are these really his opinions? I find it hard to believe sometimes, says texter 841. We did have some messages left over from Friday's programme, and on Friday's programme we had a little bit from the Health Minister, Claire Christian, who reacted to news that the doctors on the Isle of Man are going to go on strike for the first time. It's scheduled to go on Wednesday to Friday morning. Claire Christian spoke more sense in that interview than Hooper did in his full tenure. There may be hope at the end of the tunnel, says Phil. As for Chief Minister, let her complete the task within health first. Let's go to Liz now on line 1. Good afternoon, Liz.
Good afternoon. I'd just like to say, they're always advertising about using the post office and the mail, yeah?
Yes.
And I've just had a card this morning, which is the 20th of January, and according to the front of it, it says it was posted on the 12th of the 12th, 24, and it was posted. My brother lives in Chester, and this is where it was sent from, Chester. It's only got here this. Now, why would anybody use the post office with such a terrible, terrible bloody like that, you know? And it's got my IM13LG on it, and it's got my right address on it, you know?
Okay, Liz. Well, I guess we'd need to work out exactly where the hold-up was, but that does seem like an awfully long time, over a month, to get a card just from Chester, whereas actually sometimes you get things posted and they arrive pretty quickly. I
know, yeah, and it says something groggy. Is it a Manx? C-A-E or a Cara Geogog, something C-Y-M or U, Cramu, I don't know what that is, but underneath it says the 12th of the 12th, 24. I say, I've been put on the back of a snail, I would have arrived here quicker.
All right, Liz. Yeah, it's a shame, especially, if it's presumably it was like a Christmas card or something. You would have thought he'd forgotten.
No. In actual fact, he was coming for Christmas. So I says, I don't know why he just didn't bring it with him, Paddy. But he's recently widowed, and this is the year he's after having to do his cards himself. Well, 2 years ago, and he's I think he's starting with dementia, but it definitely says on the front of there, the 12th of the 12th, 24.
All right, Liz. Let's see if there's anybody else who's got any thoughts on that. But thank you so much for calling. It's lovely to talk to you.
You too. Bye.
Take care. That was Liz talking about post. That does seem like an awful long time, but as I say, obviously it was coming from the UK, so the chances are there might been a hold up there. We're not suggesting it was all happening here on the Isle of Man. A text from Steve that says a fossil fuel tanker exploded at the weekend in Nigeria and killed 77 people. This is also completely non-Isle of Man related, as was Julian's story, but it's very telling that he doesn't provide any balance whatsoever and call in with stories such as this, the perils of living in your own echo chamber online, says Steve. Tony says our postal service has gone downhill big time. Letters posted locally to be delivered locally can take up to 3 days. Let's see if we can talk to Isle of Man Post about this if we are getting suggestions and comments that it is a little bit slower. As I say, with Liz's one, it might have been something that was actually focused on the UK. They should change the name from Steam Train to the Steamy Love Train. Oh, Pammy, what have you started? And Sai has been in touch just regarding Julian's calls and remind him about a man called I don't know. I think the The text there is a little bit broken up. I can't actually. Red Adair, I think it is. Hear all this negativity regarding wind turbines from him. He needs to research the percentage of energy produced by these newfangled things. He is producing a backward view, says Simon. OK, we've got a clear switchboard for the moment. 66 13 68. Howard is waiting to talk to you. Just wondering, Howard, if we're going to get any other thoughts on the steam train issue.
Well, I was wondering about that myself, I must admit. I haven't seen it, or what Pammy is talking about, or whether someone had hired the train, a private hire, or what. It could have just been in the yard. Some shunting, I don't know.
12:27 now.
The Mannin Line. Daily interaction, debate and exchange of ideas. Broadcast on Manx Radio.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
When the Mannin Line's not on air, call Manx Radio to leave your opinion for broadcast on 682 631.
But the great news is we've got half an hour to be broadcast. So 66 13 68 is the number to call if you'd like to have a chat about anything at all this lunchtime. Des says, with the old windmill blades in the world, we could have built a road to England. That will stop Russian submarines. As for the oil tanker, we ain't paying for that, says Des. And texter ending 318, this is Nick, says, it could have been one of those dining trains. Yes, it could have been. And Nick says, P.S. I'm booking on now. No, he didn't say that. A texter ending 380, please tell Julian he has no need to worry about fires and power banks. The Climate Transformation Committee will have read somewhere power banks don't go on fire. Remember, this was their answer to bird strikes from wind turbines. And text ending 505 says, we've all seen those pictures on the train. Oh my God, absolutely crazy. Have we all seen them? Pat says, Construction Isle of Man made a statement that construction on the island is in decline. This is not true. The Isle of Man government has given at least 5 capital projects to groups without going to tender. The result of this is other island main contractors have nothing to bid on. Giving a company a contract without going to tender only allows for an open chequebook. Richard says, like clockwork, a battery fire has brought up any reason to stop progress. Of course, no mention of a fireworks factory explosion which killed people or gas storage which exploded. How many people died from nuclear power plant disasters? Just a reminder to Robert that job seekers' allowance is to gain a job, a real job like other workers and taxpayers. It's not to give anyone cash for cleaning jobs under the radar. They will need health care and dental care. Why should treatment for them be different? How much is job seekers' allowance? Perhaps they don't give that out. Perhaps they can do cleaning garden jobs as they want. Have a good day. That was just in relation to Robert calling about the gig economy a little bit earlier. So a suggestion that actually people shouldn't just be doing jobs like that, and then they should be looking for more of a long-term employment solution. Texter ending 470 thinks that Pammy needs to lighten up a little bit. Well, I think this is the thing, isn't it? It's going to provoke different reactions in different people. Who will clean the stains of the trains? Oh dear. Maybe the Manx hide and seek champion could grace the airways with an explanation into why Isle of Man Post is in such disarray. I mean, he's still on Christmas holidays until mid-morning tomorrow. Come on, Mr. Peters, let us know that you are still with us, says Fran. Can someone tell me if the government website with Manx Care Consultants referral waiting times attached are correct? How can the first appointment for a waiting time be up to 86 weeks based on median in some cases? I checked the department I require and it's 23 weeks. How can this for a first appointment be correct, says texter ending 963. No wonder people are turning to private health care. I guess, though, the point is, and we talk about this sometimes on the programme, Howard, is that we know that the waiting lists are longer. We've got more people waiting for different procedures, but I guess it's hard to gauge those waiting list times sometimes.
I'd imagine getting accurate figures is probably very difficult, isn't it? And I suppose just sort of taking a broader view as well, we've always got this problem going forward with medicine and with health treatment, and every year we can actually treat more. And it crops up pretty much again on a fairly regular basis, doesn't it, that a new treatment comes online, quite often for a rare or unusual disease, which can make a massive difference for some poor soul who could be suffering from it, but at the cost of maybe 20, 30, 40,000 pounds per treatment or per month or such like. And again, you then have this, well, how do you sort of square the circle, as it were? It's a case of, well, if I had that, or my son or my wife or my daughter had that disease, you'd want to be able to help them. How many people could afford £40,000 a month for a treatment? Could the state fund that? You have those sort of issues going on, plus the fact, I suppose, on more mundane issues, people expect so much more. The lists keep growing all the time, and you do wonder, as you say, trying to get accuracy on figures, trying to work out how much you can actually do for people. When you think back to the start of the health service, which wasn't that long ago, wasn't that long. I don't like to think about it really, but it wasn't a million years before I was born. There wasn't a health service, and I think when it was brought in to sort of be an aid and to help people out who couldn't afford it otherwise. Now it's seen as a magical, as soon as anyone has an issue, we go to the doctor, we try and get in, and you can't help but think, with the best will in the world, it's somewhat overloaded now. And it's one of those ones where you think the health service is so wonderful to have. How we fund it going forward, maybe a sort of a bigger question we need to have.
It certainly seems to be the question that's on many people's minds at the moment. We have got that doctor's strike, which is scheduled to start at 7 a.m. on Wednesday, lasting for 48 hours. 66 13 68, if you'd like to have a chat about anything at all this lunchtime, we'd love to talk to you, or you can text 166 177, email studio@manxradio.com, or find us on WhatsApp as well, where you can message us for free. Text ending 011, was it the choo-choo train? I don't think I want to think about that. Thank you very much. The Royal Mail lost 2 of my Amazon orders over Christmas. Where do all these things go? Says H. Maybe it'll turn up, H. That's the thing, isn't it? It's not Howard, incidentally. And on a plane, says text ending 330, it would be the Mile High Club. Have you got any suggestions? Well, we know that coming up with puns and names like that is one of your specialities, so if we keep it fairly clean. Robert says, with the raft of people who can't get a full-time job, I'm just noticing there's a clutch of people who can enable a gig economy. Remember, says Robert, the full-time jobs just aren't there. Are the food trains still on? Asks texter ending 505 and texter ending 942. How do we find the video and pictures? Asking for a friend. My husband has got the same condition as the caller Jill. Now, this is Jill who called up a little bit earlier on in the last week's programme. She had to go away. She goes away to Liverpool to have an injection in her eye. Ruby says, my husband has the same condition as Jill. He used to go to Aintree, but since COVID, we requested he have it in Nobles, as they have an Aintree clinic who are employed by Aintree Hospital, and this was accepted. He says the staff are brilliant. He hasn't had a problem. It's so much better than the long day to Liverpool when the appointment only lasts for 30 minutes, and then he's not waiting all day at the airport to return to the Isle of Man. Let's go to the lines and join Eddie now. Good afternoon, Eddie.
Hiya, Beth. You all right, love?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm grand as out.
Good.
The health service was formed in 1948. I should know I was born in the very first National Health Hospital, David Hume Park Hospital near Manchester. But it's absolutely obvious, and everybody knows, that for the past 25 years we've been trying to get rid of the national health and have all private medical care whatsoever, I think that's why it's been run down and still is being run down. So no excuses. It's all very obvious to the people out here why it's all happening this way. I don't know what your thoughts are on that point.
Well, I think, Eddie, we do talk about the level of people's expectations versus what is realistically achievable and what can be provided.
Well, the thought of that is that, just say, for instance, my own circumstances, I've paid taxes and national insurance for 50-odd years, right? So if I'm paying into that company, let's call it a company, I want the service from them.
But the point is, though, Eddie, it's not a pay-as-you-go service, is it? And I think sometimes this is maybe where we probably do think, we have paid in, therefore we deserve to get out. But we get out in many different ways in terms of education, with our roads being done. It's not as simple as we pay in and therefore it covers everything that we might need from the health service.
It's got nothing to do with roads and things like that. Let's face it, when you pay your national insurance fees all your life, the trouble with government, once the government's decided that they want it, like America, all private care. The minute they do that, you've got two tiers then. You've got all those who have paid all their lives, that they are entitled to it. How do you transfer from one to the other? It's more or less impossible, but you have got to look after the ones who've already paid every penny that they were asked to pay for their health care. So they should be looked after. And at the moment, in my opinion anyway, excuse me, they are not looking after that side of it. They are. It's the older people who need new knees, new hips, new this and the other, who've paid all their lives, who are the ones who are on the waiting list.
It is a really difficult one, isn't it, Eddie? I wonder whether people would be willing then to actually pay more and actually pay, a percentage more to guarantee those sort of services.
Well, I've said this once before about the same subject on your programme, that the problem is, and which is what to me makes it obvious that they want it all to go private, is they don't ask. They don't ask the young ones, say, you've got to pay more. When all the time I've been growing up through my life, each time the national insurance paid up, I paid it. Every time it was increased, you paid it. You didn't mind because you were getting a service. At the moment, there's a lot of upset people because they're not getting a service anymore.
But the service costs so much more, though, Eddie, doesn't it?
Well, then, that's what we're just saying. Ask for more from the public, the general public, the ones who are working. Now, when I was asked, when I was working, I paid it. So why shouldn't the ones who are working now also agree with that theory, that if you want the service, you've got to pay a bit more?
All right, Eddie. Lovely to talk to you as ever.
One more thing, Beth.
Oh, go on.
One more thing. Julian was on before.
Yeah.
And he mentioned about the fires. Well, last year, the biggest battery place, electric batteries, the lithium ones, it was somewhere in Cumbria, I think it was, that went on fire as well. So it's not that Julian is nagging for the sake of nagging. It's happening all over the world. And why on earth we can't sort of say this technology is great, but it's not good.
Okay. All right. Lovely to talk to you, Eddie. Take care. Speak to you soon. That was Eddie there talking about the health service. Obviously, we might be talking about that quite a bit this week with that doctor's strike scheduled to start on Wednesday morning. Text running 505. Do the locomotion with 3. Yes. I think I know what you're getting at there. It should now be called the steamy train, says Neil. The people who get into trouble drinking in pubs must be getting too many benefits if they can afford to do it, says Alan. Then the fine is paid from benefits. The construction industry is mostly owned by one local firm. They've bought out all the larger local firms, but retaining their trading name as to deflect any suspicion of wrongdoing when it comes to government contracts. This is according to this text to 762. It's wrong to me that one person's company and greed can hold the government to ransom, but government refuses to do anything. It's like having two developers in the housing markets that control everything. That stinks to me. Let's go back to the lines and join Howard. Good afternoon, Howard.
Hello, Beth. Just listening to a couple of your callers earlier about the eye clinic, Aintree and Nobles. My wife was going over to Aintree to have the injections. And I have to wholeheartedly agree it was a pain in the backside because the service there was excellent and we were out of there by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, something like that, and there was a whole day sitting around. But the last time we were over, my wife said to the consultant, why are they not doing this on the island anymore? Because they used to years ago. And she said, well, strange enough, she said, I've just been in consultation. I've been talking to the Manx government and we'll wait and see. Well, my wife's next appointment, strangely enough, was here on the island. And it's in the eye clinic area. It's a separate little area. And they're very good up there, excellent. But they still come under the auspice of Aintree. because recently, when the flu was on, my wife, well, we both had it, caught flu, and she didn't want to go up there into the eye clinic with a dose of flu, so we had to ring Aintree and to change the appointment. You don't ring anybody here. So the appointment system is run through Aintree, and you get a letter back from them, and it tells you when your next appointment is, which my wife will be a week on Friday. But one of the things I think is leading to people having to go off the island to have it, if they have underlying complaints like type 1 diabetes and various other illnesses that will need a bit more of a cautionary approach. I know because there was a friend of mine, sadly he's passed away now, but he had type 1 and a couple of other illnesses, and he was having exactly the same injections as my wife, but he had to go off the island, even up until not so very long ago, after they changed the system to come and do it in Nobles. He was still having to go away because of his underlying illnesses. So that's possibly why. But I wholeheartedly agree. It was a pain in the backside to be in Liverpool, because who wants to be walking around Liverpool in the middle of winter? And especially after you just had your eye injected. Okay, according to my wife, it's a little bit painful, a bit like getting dust in your eyes, but it's not as bad as what people make it. I'd never want to go down that road, but I would take her word for it. But that is possibly the reason that the people are having to still go off the island, is because of underlying ailments, and they will want to take a closer approach, in-house approach, so to speak.
Well, yes, Howard, when we asked Manx Care about this following Jill's call last week, they did tell us that it was likely to be a clinical decision if you have got other conditions, like you say, but it's not an easy thing to have to go through. It sounds really awful, actually. Thank you so much. It was brilliant to talk to you again. Take care. Have a lovely afternoon.
Take care. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
That was Howard just talking about eye surgery on Ireland, or Aintree, or those eye injections. Just on the topic of the train, says Adam, I've heard they've renamed it the Pie and Smash train. Dee says, good news, Laxey's Christmas lights were switched off on Friday, but really, when are the government and police going to take over? The persecuted reputation, he would be sacked. I don't quite understand that text. I think it's got a little bit jumbled coming in here. He was allowed to continue as an MHK. Is really more than most would have done in the equivalent job outside of government. This is us going back to the lines, though. And good afternoon, Brian. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. However, I have got to apologise to a lot of drivers who are in and around the Onken and Signpost area this morning. Just after 8 o'clock this morning, I was awakened by somebody to tell me that my farm was on fire.
Oh.
And as you might expect, we were quite anxious to get there as quickly as possible. So we carried out a few manoeuvres, not least of all about 100 yards up the pavement, trying to get past the traffic at Signpost Corner. As it happened, when we got there, and I'm very grateful to the fire department, they had an appliance and about 10 officers searching for the fire and searching around Onken to see where the fire may have been, if in case they had the wrong address. But it appears that it was just next door's condensing boiler putting a bit of steam out. But I'm very grateful for, even though it wasn't a fire, somebody being conscientious enough to report it and send it in. So thank you very much, and I apologise to the driving style. It's not how we normally drive, let's put it that way.
No, I'm not sure whether you should be admitting this live on air, Brian, but yeah, we totally understand, you know, when it's an emergency like that. But of course, it was fast but safe. But so glad to hear that the van wasn't on fire. But yeah, as you say, the idea that people would report it just in case just shows community spirit is alive and well here on the Isle of Man.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. And long may it be so.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Beth.
Oh, lovely to talk to you. Take care, Brian. Thank you very much indeed. That was Brian with a little bit of an apology for speeding through Onken this morning. Mark has texted, Oh, Howard, I'm going to get myself into trouble here. How do I book the erotic train? Can I bring my cosy and goggles?
Yes.
Oh dear.
Well, it's
Oh,
almost
dear.
as good as the one about changing one of the letters on Thomas. No, we won't.
No. Definitely won't read that one out. Do your listeners wear blinkers? I think Julian's point was completely missed. I think you talked about Julian, actually. I think Julian's point was completely missed. If a battery storage blows up, you have no backup electricity. If you want to know what that's like, go to your main switch and turn it off. It may open your eyes. The UK was on the verge of a blackout during that storm. What was the population in 1948 in comparison to today? They're not trying to get rid of the NHS. The cost to run it is enormous and they have more to deal with. Bob says President Trump starts making the world from today a better place. Let's wish him well. The NHS started in a manageable form, says text ending 313. The problems began as Big Pharma ploughed billions into medical research, diagnosing new illnesses and finding new treatments that the NHS then have to adopt. Andy says, please, is Eddie from the Isle of Man? And if he isn't, how many years of Isle of Man contributions did he make? Why should people who've contributed, say, 30 years NI here subsidise those who just retire here? Texter ending 280 says, I'm far from being a pensioner, but I do feel pensioners should be higher on the list to having an increase closer to minimum wage than someone on minimum wage getting closer to living wage. After all, they have paid in for all of their lives. Texter ending 011, did he not read the sign? Mind the gap. As for being killed, you can be mindlessly killed walking along the road, so take care, says Des. Which tunnel was that fella on the train caught in, says Brian. Pat says, regarding NI contributions, a person who's only employed as self-employed on $30,000 per annum only pays Class 2 and Class 4, total payment around £2,036. A person directly employed pays £30,000 or £5,365, so a loss to the NI fund of over £3,000 per annum. How can we afford this loss if more people start becoming self-employed? That was in response to Roger's call a little bit earlier. Text running 616 says the life expectancy in 1948 when the NHS was created was lower than it is today. People living longer has increased, therefore the cost to our NHS has become that much higher. As medicine gets better and we find cures for diseases, surely we do need to up what we put into the NHS if we want to care for all.
Absolutely. And just while you're reading some of those messages out, Beth, Eddie came back on, just referenced a letter, I think it was from Andy, the message to say that, yes, he's actually worked on the Isle of Man for 57 years over here, Eddie has. So I think he feels quite rightly, I think, that he's paid his dues on the Isle of Man.
OK, thank you for clarifying that, Eddie. It's always good to get responses to messages that come in. R has been in touch to say, my mother went blind from macular degeneration. The injections cost over £1,000 every 10 years and getting on a plane every few months was a small thing to do compared with going blind. I think people have to take more care of their own health, says Heather. Look at the number of overweight people over here on the island. No wonder there are so many hip and knee replacements needed. People also expect to be able to pop a pill and carry on as normal without changing their diet or lifestyle. A fossil fuel tanker. Oh, I think I've read that one out. Oh, and that was a Thomas the Tank one. Oh, goodness me. Was it engine 69? Oh, I read it. Is it safe to call it the... I'm gonna be in so much trouble. I can't read that out. Can I read that out? No. Chitty chitty bang bang. Oh, I read that. Oh, goodness me. I shouldn't have asked. Gives a whole new meaning to where do you get off. Thank you, Jimmy. Okay. Howard, I just, all these, I can't.
Well, if nothing else, it sparked a lot of, if you want a lot of conversation on the Mannin line, never mind the economy, the NHS or energy, the best thing to do is go out on the train with your mate.
Oh, goodness me.
And do things your mate might
right. Peter has said the NHS has been overrun with flu cases this winter. It's something we've seen in the UK, them talking about hospital admissions because of flu. Des said, I would rather go blind than have a needle in my eye, and all this train talk is putting me off track. How did you find out how much of an upfront payment on new arrivals have to pay for medical treatment, or do they all walk off the boat to free healthcare? That is something that is on our list of things to talk about, particularly since we've got the budget coming up in February. We will be having extensive budget coverage, and I think that is going to be one of the subjects that we are going to be covering. Fly tipping around the island seems to be getting worse, says Kevin. Port Sodrick car park is being used as a dumping ground for televisions, bikes and other rubbish. Please can the police get involved and take fingerprints off the items? It's a disgrace for visiting walkers to have to see it like this. Please can we keep our island tidy? The excessive cost of Manx care, says Texter 154, says isn't the salary of doctors, consultants and nursing staff, it's the amount of administration staff that's pushing the cost up. Like all government departments, it's top heavy with admin staff. To be honest, if you have to visit Nobles and sit in the waiting room, there's a continuous stream of office staff wandering around with a piece of paper in their hand, just out for a jolly. Do we know that for certain? Every department has 5 or 6 people sat at desks, but you can't get a phone answered. That is just my observation, says Jeff. And Textra ending 778 says, I've been going to Aintree for over 2 years. Some injections are done here according to the problem, but others are exclusively done by Aintree. Macular problems can be treated here. I have an occlusion requiring a different injection, which is only done at Aintree at the moment. This is a text from 961 that says, with regards to Liverpool hospital appointments, there needs to be a desperate overhaul as it's costing a fortune. I was among many patients unable to return home last week because of the snow. Some of our appointments weren't actually necessary. We were well taken care of with hotels, taxi transfers and our trip home, but this must have cost the government and Manx Care a fortune. Come on, please sort this out. At work, says Kathy, we are listening avidly to the train messages. Please read them all out. It's great, light-hearted fun. Well, as long as you've said that, Kathy, then if there are any more, I can see what I can do. NI contributions, that's the one from Pat that I think we've already read out. You should play Squeeze Up the Junction or Half Man, Half Biscuit. The Trumpton riot, says Texter ending 762. The NHS was not set up to deal with replacement knees, hips. It was to deal with mental health issues and all the other myriad of illnesses. Eddie's generation didn't have to pay for that, so why should today's workers pay more to cover those issues for those who need them now? A France model of healthcare funding is needed over here. That is from Texter ending 653. The fly tipping is the obvious consequence of charging a lot of money to take televisions and fridges, etc., to amenity sites. Now, I know we've got an interview about this tomorrow, so we will be able to bring you more details about that. What else can you do with flies? The blackout, says Simon, that old lie that the UK was close to a blackout is shameless. Never mind the steamy train. Here's a starter for you. I've just seen on BBC One's Bargain Hunt programme on television a stallholder's table top counter, a sign with the name H. Simcox, Commissioner for Oaths. It's exactly like the ones you had seen on certain Manx Government legal eagle types of offices. That is from Samo. And the main problem with the health service and the benefit system is too many people who've never paid in and have no attention in are happy to take, says Graham. Thomas a Tank has a whole new meaning, doesn't it just? What's all this about Blue Monday? This is a good show, says text reading 723. I really, honestly, I don't know if I am going to be back tomorrow. I mean, what was I thinking? And we've just had a quick message in from May's mum, who has sent a photograph of what looks like an old radiator heater that has been dumped by the Silverdale roundabout. So it does seem that there are some issues with fly tipping around the island. It's something we have talked about on the programmes before, but it will be something that we will raise again. As I say, we've definitely got that interview tomorrow just about the charges to the amenity site. Somebody wants to be massively filled in. Oh, no, that's not what they said. I don't... Oh, dear. That's not helped by Christie's face now, honestly. Right, that's it. I'm not doing any more comments. Christie's next. Andy will be back soon, please God. Oh, thank you very much anyway. Bye.